She kept shouting, "You're trespassing on HOA property," while two men in bright orange vests dragged me across my own yard. I was barefoot, half awake, and all I could think was, this can't be happening. They pushed me toward a white van parked near my fence, its engine still running. One of them said, "Mr. Dawson, we can do this the easy way or the hard way. Just sign the papers." I looked at the document flapping in the wind. It said property transfer agreement. My name was already printed on it, like they expected me to surrender without a fight. My hands were shaking, but not from fear, from rage. Just 2 hours earlier, I had been sitting at my kitchen table drinking coffee, watching my daughter paint on the porch. Then that woman, Karen from the HOA, barged through the gate with her clipboard and a fake smile. "You were supposed to attend the board meeting last week," she said. I told her I didn't need HOA approval to repaint my own fence. She smirked. "We'll see about that." Now I was face down in my own grass, with her standing a few feet away recording everything on her phone like it was some victory. "You can't just take my home," I shouted. One of the enforcers grabbed my arm tighter. "Ma'am said you refused multiple notices," he barked. Karen's tone turned cold. "This property was never legally yours. Our records show it belongs to the community." I could hear my daughter crying from the porch, screaming my name. "Daddy!" she yelled. That broke something inside me. "Let her go inside," I roared. But Karen didn't care. She turned her camera toward the house, muttering, "Evidence of resistance." Something about the way those men moved didn't feel right. They weren't cops. Their badges had no department name, only a printed HOA logo. One of them had a taser, the other had zip ties. My mind started racing. If they weren't real law enforcement, then who the hell were they? I tried to steady my breathing as they forced me toward the van. "You sign that document, and we'll leave your family alone," Karen said. "You can't fight city zoning laws." I stared at her, noticing the way her hand trembled just slightly as she spoke. She wasn't in control like she wanted to appear. She was scared of something or someone behind all this. Then she made a mistake. She whispered to one of the men, "Make sure the camera doesn't catch the logo this time." This time. That meant they'd done this before. My heart sank and my anger exploded all at once. I kicked backwards, slamming my heel into one guy's knee. He screamed, falling to the ground. The other rushed forward, but I twisted free, stumbling toward my fence. "Stop him!" Karen yelled. The taser buzzed, and I ducked just in time, hearing it crackle past my ear. I sprinted toward the side of the house, grabbed the metal pole leaning against the wall, and faced them. "You've got 10 seconds to get off my land," I growled. The guy limped up, gritting his teeth. "You don't know who you're messing with," he hissed. I replied, "You're right. You don't know who I am." Karen laughed mockingly. "Oh, please. You're a stubborn homeowner who can't pay dues." I smiled faintly. "Then why are you so nervous?" Her smirk faded. The van's back door opened, and for the first time, I saw another man sitting inside wearing sunglasses, watching everything silently. His suit didn't match the others. Corporate type. Maybe a lawyer. He lifted a phone to his ear and said quietly, "He's resisting. Do we proceed?" That line hit me like ice. Proceed? With what? Kidnapping? Forced transfer? Whatever this was, it wasn't a legal eviction. I noticed the small black dome camera above my garage light, blinking red. My security system was recording everything. Every word, every shove, every illegal move. Karen noticed it too. "Turn that thing off!" she screamed. "It's private HOA business." I couldn't help but laugh. "You just turned my front yard into a crime scene, and you're worried about privacy." The man in the van muttered something to her, and suddenly the two enforcers backed off. Karen straightened her jacket and forced a smile. "Fine, Mr. Dawson, have it your way. But when the sheriff gets here, you'll wish you'd cooperated." She turned around and marched to her car. But as she opened the door, she didn't realize her voice was still being picked up by her own mic. She said softly into her phone, "Upload the footage to Martin before he deletes the files. We need to make it look like he attacked first." That was the moment I knew this went deeper than some angry neighbor. This was organized. They wanted my property for a reason, and they were willing to fake an entire story to take it. I looked back at my daughter, who was clutching her teddy bear at the doorway. I whispered to her, "It's okay, honey. Daddy's got this." But inside I knew I had to move fast. I had evidence, I had recordings, but I also had a past they didn't know about. I turned off the front light and locked the door behind me. My hand brushed against the small safe hidden under the counter, the one I hadn't opened in 5 years. Inside was my old badge, still gleaming beneath the dust. Not a regular police badge, but a federal one. And that was the first time I smiled all day. "They picked the wrong man," I said quietly to myself. "This time they'll be the ones signing papers." They dragged me out of my home thinking I was powerless. They had no idea I once signed arrest warrants for people like them. ChatGPT can. Karen's car disappeared down the street, but her words kept echoing in my head. "Make it look like he attacked first." That one line told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't about a paint color or HOA rules. Someone higher up wanted my property, and they were willing to destroy my life for it. I sat in the living room, the lights off, my laptop open, watching the live security feed from all 6 cameras. Every angle of my yard was saved to a private cloud, locked, encrypted, untouchable. The men in orange vests had fled, but I rewound the footage anyway, zooming in on their badges. The HOA logo was printed on cheap plastic, the kind you could order online. And that van, no plate number in the front, they'd covered it with mud. Whoever these guys were, they'd planned this carefully. I called my friend Mason, a former cop who now ran a private investigation firm. "Mason, I need a favor," I said. He could hear the tension in my voice. "What's wrong, brother?" I told him everything. Karen, the fake enforcers, the forced document, the mysterious guy in the van. He whistled low. "That's not HOA stuff, man. Sounds like a land grab." "A land grab?" I asked. He explained, "It's when companies or officials use fake paperwork to pressure homeowners. They flip the land to developers." I stared at the paused frame on my laptop, Karen's face mid-scream. "So they're trying to steal my land to sell it?" Mason sighed. "Probably. Your property's near the new freeway extension, right? That land's worth millions now, millions. That's why they were desperate." Just then, a notification pinged on my phone. "Unknown number. You shouldn't have recorded that. Delete the footage if you care about your family." My blood went cold. The timing was too perfect. They knew I had evidence. I walked to my daughter's room. She was asleep, holding her teddy bear. I knelt beside her and whispered, "We're going to be okay, sweetheart." But inside, I wasn't sure. At dawn, a county truck pulled up outside. A man stepped out wearing a real badge this time. "Morning, sir. I'm Deputy Reynolds. Got a call about a domestic disturbance here last night?" My stomach turned. Karen had moved faster than I thought. "Yes, officer," I said carefully. "But I've got video proof." "They attacked me on my own property." He raised an eyebrow. "They?" I showed him the footage on my laptop. Karen, the fake badges, the van, everything. The deputy's face changed from suspicion to concern. "You need to stay inside today," he said. "I'll send this up the chain." But as he turned to leave, his radio buzzed. A voice said, "Reynolds canceled that report. The HOA already cleared it." No further action. He froze, confused. "That's not how it works." I could see it in his eyes. He wanted to help, but someone had already pulled the strings. I asked, "Who authorized that?" He hesitated. "City Zoning Board." Karen's words flashed in my mind again. "Upload it to Martin." Martin. Maybe that was the man in the van, the real boss behind this mess. After the deputy left, I packed my daughter's bag. "We're going to Grandma's," I told her. I needed her safe before I fought back. When I came back home alone, I pulled the old badge from the safe again. It still felt heavy in my hand. I used to work in federal investigations before retiring early. That's why I'd chosen this quiet town, to disappear. But apparently, someone just made it personal. I grabbed the small black case beside the badge. Inside were 2 flash drives encrypted with my old agency credentials. I inserted one into my laptop and typed a command. Within seconds, the footage uploaded to 3 separate cloud vaults, plus a hidden drive only my old partner could access. Then I opened my phone and texted Mason again. "Need background on a guy named Martin. Connected to local HOA board. Likely real estate or government ties? His reply came quick, already on it. Be careful. That name's popped up in a few shady zoning deals across the state. Before I could respond, tires screeched outside. I peeked through the blinds, 2 black SUVs parked in front of my driveway. Not police, not HOA trucks. One of the enforcers from last night stepped out, now in a black uniform, hand resting on his belt. He rang the doorbell once. "Mr. Dawson, we need to talk." I didn't answer. He waited, then knocked harder. "We just want the files," I whispered under my breath. "So it is about the footage." I turned off every light and moved quietly to the back door. But as I stepped onto the porch, I saw movement. Another man in the yard, blocking the exit. They were surrounding the house. I felt the phone buzz again. Message from an unknown number. "You've got 1 hour to hand over the footage, or we'll make it disappear with the house." That's when I decided. They wanted a fight. They'd get one. But I wasn't going to use fists or guns. I'd use the truth. I walked to the living room, turned the camera directly on myself, and started recording. "This is John Dawson. If anything happens to me or my daughter, this footage exposes everyone involved, from Karen to whoever's funding her. You came to the wrong house. I sent the live feed link to Mason, to a federal contact, and to my lawyer. Then I sat down calmly, staring out the window as the men gathered near my porch. The fear was gone now, replaced with something sharper. They thought I was trapped. They didn't realize every second they stood there, they were being streamed live to multiple servers. As the first man reached for the doorknob, my phone buzzed again. This time it was Mason. "Got something. Martin's company just received a $3 million zoning grant, and your property is right in the middle of it." I smiled. "Gotcha." The door creaked. I stood up slowly, facing it head-on. "Come on in," I said quietly. "Let's finish what you started." They surrounded my home thinking I'd give up. They didn't know I had already turned their whole operation into a live broadcast. ChatGPT can M. The moment the door opened, the house fell silent, like even the air was waiting to see what I'd do. The first man stepped inside, moving slow, scanning every corner. His partner followed, holding something that looked like a document folder, but thicker, like it hid more than paper. I stayed perfectly still on the couch, both hands visible. "You don't need to do this," I said calmly. The man with the folder smirked. "That depends on you, Mr. Dawson. Just give us the drives. Karen told us you like to play tough, but this isn't a game. You've got no idea who you're up against." "Then enlighten me," I said, standing up. He hesitated. "Let's just say, this land isn't as private as you think. The people who want it aren't the kind you file complaints against." I looked straight into the camera on the shelf, knowing my live feed was still streaming. "Good," I said. "Then they'll be famous in about 10 minutes. The man's smirk faded. "You're bluffing." I pointed toward the laptop. "You can check for yourself. Half the county's watching you right now." He turned his head just slightly, uncertain, and that's when Mason's voice boomed from my phone on speaker. "Smile, boys. You're live on 3 mirrored servers, and your faces are crystal clear." Both men froze. The one nearest to me cursed under his breath and reached for his radio. "Martin, we've got a problem," he whispered. Hearing that name again made my jaw tighten. "Tell Martin he's next," I said. The second man panicked, grabbed the folder, and tried to leave. I blocked his way. "Not yet." I snatched the folder from his hand and threw it open on the table. Inside were signed transfer documents with forged signatures. Mine, Karen's, and a few city officials I didn't even know. But one thing stood out. Every document had the same signature of approval. Martin H. Lowe, Regional Zoning Director. Mason's voice came again. "You just found your smoking gun, buddy." Before I could answer, the man by the door pulled a small black device from his pocket and threw it on the floor. Smoke burst out instantly, thick and choking. I heard footsteps running as they escaped through the haze. I coughed, covering my mouth, then grabbed the laptop and ran outside. The SUVs were gone, only tire marks on the road. I stood there in the early light, breathing hard. My neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, peeked out from across the street. "John, are you okay? Those men look dangerous." I nodded slightly. They were. But they just made their biggest mistake. I drove straight to Mason's office, the folder and my drives locked in a bag. He met me at the door, his face pale. "Man, you just blew open something massive," he said, spreading out maps on his desk. "Look here. This whole subdivision is under a fake redevelopment project. Martin's company's name is all over it. Karen's just their puppet." I stared at the map. Every red X marked a home under dispute. 20 families, 20 more like me. "They're using the HOA to force people out," I muttered. Mason nodded grimly, "and they don't care how they do it." Before we could plan our next move, my phone rang again, this time from a blocked number. I put it on speaker. A smooth voice said, "Mr. Dawson, you're playing a dangerous game. You should have taken the deal." "Martin," I said quietly. He chuckled. "Smart man, but let me save you some pain. Walk away, delete the footage. You'll get a fair offer for your land and everyone goes home happy." I let the silence hang for a moment. Then I said, "You came into my home, scared my kid, forged my signature, and think you can buy me out." His tone turned cold. "You're outnumbered, Dawson. Think about your daughter before you make this worse." The line clicked dead. Mason looked at me. "He just threatened your kid. That's enough for a federal case." I nodded. "Yeah, and he just gave me permission to go after him." We spent the next hour preparing everything. The video clips, the forged documents, the call logs, even Karen's voice recording from the first day. Mason sent a copy to his federal contact, and I saved another on a private drive. By noon, news vans were already on the street. Somehow the live stream had gone viral overnight. The caption read, "Homeowner fights back against corrupt HOA raid." People were furious online. Comments poured in, "That's illegal. Arrest those HOA thugs. This man needs protection." Karen's face was all over the footage too. She must have seen it because my phone buzzed again with her message. "You don't know what you've done. They'll destroy you." I replied, "Then they'll have to go through the truth first." At that moment, Mason's assistant ran in. "Guys, you need to see this." She turned the TV on. News anchors were already talking about the HOA kidnapping case. But the shocking part came next, a live press statement from the city. Standing behind the podium was Martin himself. He looked calm, confident. "The HOA followed standard protocol," he said. "This homeowner fabricated evidence to avoid legal dues." I clenched my fists. Mason muttered, "He's lying through his teeth." The reporter asked, "Do you deny the involvement of private contractors?" Martin smiled. "There were no private contractors. Everything was handled lawfully. That was my breaking point. He wants war in public? Fine, he'll get it." I opened my laptop, streamed his press conference side by side with the live footage from my cameras, the fake enforcers dragging me, Karen shouting orders, Martin's voice on the radio saying, "Proceed." Within minutes, the comments exploded. The truth was spreading faster than they could bury it. Mason grinned. "You just burned their whole operation, but my gut told me it wasn't over yet. Powerful people don't go down quietly." That night, as I was heading home, I noticed a black car parked near my mailbox. Its headlights were off, but the engine was running. I slowed down, watching. A hand lifted a phone inside the car, pointed straight at me, then lowered it again. I smiled bitterly. "Still watching, huh? Good, keep watching. Tomorrow the real storm starts." I drove past without stopping, but deep down I knew this was far from finished. The evidence was out, the truth was live, but the people I'd exposed had power, money, and friends in high places. They'd underestimated me once. They wouldn't make that mistake again. They burned my peace, threatened my family, and lied to the world. But when the truth went live, their empire started to crumble. That night, sleep didn't come. Every sound outside felt heavier than usual. The hum of a car engine, the faint bark of a dog down the street, the flicker of my porch light. My mind replayed the moment those fake enforcers dragged me from my home. I kept seeing my daughter's terrified face. And then I thought of Martin's voice, smooth and calm, threatening her like it was business as usual. By morning, I knew I couldn't wait for justice to come to me. I had to go after it. I called Mason. "It's time we take this to the federal desk," I said. He agreed instantly. "I'll contact Special Agent Reyes. He owes me a favor. But be careful, John. You've rattled big cages. While I waited for Mason's call, I opened my laptop. Overnight, the live stream had crossed 1 million views. Comments were flooding in from across the country. Veterans, homeowners, lawyers, everyone wanted justice. But buried between the supportive comments was one that chilled me. "You should have stayed quiet." "She's already gone." My heart stopped. She's already gone? I ran to my daughter's room, empty. Bed still messy from last night, but her backpack was missing. My pulse spiked. I checked the kitchen, the yard, nothing. I called her phone, no answer. Then my own phone rang. Unknown number. "Looking for your daughter?" The voice was Martin's, calm, confident, cruel. "Where is she?" I shouted. "She's safe. For now," he said. "You wanted attention, you got it. Now you'll listen." My hands clenched around the phone. "If you touch her," he cut me off. "You're going to delete the footage, withdraw your statement, and sign the transfer papers. Do that and you'll see her again." I froze. The world felt like it tilted. I forced myself to breathe. "You think I'll believe you?" "Check your porch," he said, and hung up. I ran outside, and there it was. A teddy bear. Mud-stained, one eye missing, placed neatly on the porch step. My stomach twisted. This wasn't a bluff. I called Mason immediately. "They've got her," I said. He didn't waste a second. "Stay put. Don't call the cops yet. I'll trace the call." Minutes later, Mason sent me coordinates. They used a burner, but I got a signal ping from an old industrial site 10 miles out. "I'm on my way." I grabbed the safe again, this time not for the badge, but for what was hidden beneath it, a flash drive labeled Omega, my last resort. I drove like a ghost through the empty highway, heart pounding with every mile. When I reached the site, Mason was already waiting, his car lights off. "I scoped it," he said quietly. 2 SUVs, same kind from before. "They're inside that old sawmill." I looked at the building, windows blacked out, one flickering light near the entrance. "We can't just rush in," I said. Mason smirked. "Who said anything about rushing?" "I brought toys." He popped the trunk to reveal a small drone kit. "Let's see what they're hiding." We launched the drone and watched the live feed on Mason's tablet. Inside, we saw Karen pacing back and forth, talking to someone off camera. "I told you this is going too far," she shouted. Then Martin's voice replied, "You don't get to talk about morals now." "Karen, you knew what this was." Mason zoomed the drone in. There she was, my daughter sitting in a chair, unharmed but frightened. 2 guards stood nearby. My vision tunneled. I could barely think straight. "We need backup," Mason said. "If we rush this, they'll panic." I thought for a moment, then smiled faintly. "Who said we're rushing? Let's give them their own medicine." We patched the drone feed straight into the live stream. Within minutes, thousands were watching again. The screen filled with comments. "That's the same HOA lady." "Call the cops!" "This is kidnapping." Martin had no idea the world was watching. I called him from the car. "You really think you're untouchable, don't you?" He laughed. "You still don't get it, Dawson. People like me don't get caught." "Then look outside," I said. He paused. Then I saw him step into view on the drone feed, looking around, confused. Behind him, Karen's phone buzzed. She looked at the screen, her face going pale. "We're live," she whispered. Martin turned to her sharply. "What? Millions are watching," she stammered. He snatched the phone from her hand, his composure cracking. "Shut it down," he yelled. Mason grinned. "Too late." We called the county sheriff directly and shared the feed link. Within 10 minutes, sirens were echoing down the old road. Martin started shouting orders, trying to flee, but his men were trapped between the cameras and flashing lights. I kicked open the sawmill door, just as officers surrounded the place. Martin looked at me with pure hatred. "You'll regret this," he hissed. I stepped closer. "No, Martin." "You will." The sheriff cuffed him, while another officer untied my daughter. She ran straight into my arms, sobbing. "Daddy, they said you were going away forever." "Not a chance," I whispered. Karen stood in the corner, trembling. "I never wanted this," she said weakly. "He made me." I stopped her. "You made your choices. Now you'll live with them." As Martin was led away, he turned one last time. "This isn't over. You think one video can stop us?" I looked straight at him. "No, but it's enough to start the end." The flashing lights painted the night red and blue as the officers drove off. My daughter squeezed my hand tighter. Mason exhaled. You just tore down an entire corruption ring, man. But I wasn't celebrating yet. I looked up at the dark sky. No, I said quietly. This was just the first layer. Because deep down, I knew Martin wasn't working alone. They took my daughter to break me. Instead, they gave me the one reason I needed to burn their empire to the ground. ChatGPT can make mistakes. Check important info. They cuffed Martin and led him toward the patrol cars. But the real fight was just starting. In the sawmill office, we found stacks of contracts, burner phones, and a ledger that smelled like someone had tried to burn it. Mason tipped over a metal box, and my hands went numb when I saw the county stamps. Approvals, signatures, and wire transfers that linked Martin straight to a name I knew from the old files, Commissioner Hargrove. The same Hargrove who'd pushed the redevelopment plan through 2 years ago. The same Hargrove who stood at ribbon cuttings and smiled for the cameras. I felt a cold laugh catch in my throat. They were never just after my house, I said. They were cleaning up titles for deals that fed a bigger machine. Mason's jaw tightened. We need Reyes now. This goes federal. By the time the sheriff moved prisoners to the vans, 2 black SUVs pulled up. This time, the men who stepped out wore badges that meant something, real ones. Special Agent Reyes and a small FBI team. Reyes walked up, looked at the spread of documents, then at me. You did good, he said simply. You made them sloppy. That ledger will be the key. At the station, the first twist landed like a punch. Karen sat in the interview room, her hands folded, eyes red. She had come voluntarily, after hours of calling me, shaking, saying she wanted to tell the truth. When Reyes played her a copy of Martin's ledger, she started to cry. I thought he'd protect me, she said. He said he'd give my family a place if I helped. I never thought they'd hurt a kid, her voice broke. I'm sorry. Her confession opened a door none of us had dared to try. She told Reyes everything, how Martin recruited her, how the enforcers were hired through a shell company, how some county clerks were paid to change records. She handed over emails she'd saved, voicemails, and a list of bank accounts. Every piece fit with the files we had already mirrored online. That was twist 2. Karen wasn't a monster born that day. She was a scared woman who chose wrong because she was scared for her own future. But she didn't stop there. She sat through long interviews, and then she agreed to testify. Her live on-camera apology went viral for another reason. People saw a person admit wrong, fix it, and own it. That angered some, but it also shifted public feeling from pure rage to justice. We needed her to expose the whole chain, and she did. Reyes didn't waste time. Within 48 hours, the FBI had search warrants across 3 counties. Phones, servers, trust accounts, everything froze. Hargrove's office was one of the first to be swept. He tried to play it cool on live TV, but a secure warrant and an armored squad make it hard to keep smiling. As they read him his rights, Hargrove's face went pale, and he looked right at the cameras as if he recognized that his public life, the pomp, the ribbon cuttings, his speeches about community revitalization had just been exposed as paper-thin. The courtroom became the next battlefield. Martin's lawyers tried to claim rogue actors and misinterpretation, but the documents were too many, the witnesses too clear, the transfers too direct. Karen testified about the threats, the payments, and the exact phone calls Martin made saying, "Proceed." I testified too, my voice steady, the old badge heavy in its memory, but not used as a threat. They laid out the evidence, the live feeds, the documents, the ledger, the threats. Each piece made a slow, deliberate sound in the room, like a hammer on a coffin. Then came the twist I hadn't expected. During cross-examination, a name popped into the record, Senator Blake. A small consulting firm connected to him had processed wire transfers for some of the shell accounts. Suddenly, what looked like local corruption turned national. Overnight, the story exploded across cable news. People who had been watching a local HOA horror were now watching a federal corruption probe that linked a county commissioner, a zoning director, shell companies, and a senator's associates. The stakes were enormous. When the judge signed the stays and injunctions, my property was placed under protective hold. Not because I didn't own it, That was never the question, but because the government needed to preserve it as evidence while they unwound the web of fake transfers. That meant no one could touch my deed, no one could claim my land. And for the first time since the men in orange vests showed up, I felt safe standing on my porch without looking over my shoulder. People called us brave, naive, and reckless in equal measure. I called my daughter into the yard one evening and watched her swing slowly, the late sun making her hair look like fire. "Daddy," she said, "are we going to be okay?" I didn't make promises I couldn't keep, but I said what I felt. "I fought for this country once," I told her, "not because I wanted glory, but because I believed we had rules. If someone breaks those rules, we fix them." That's what we did. The legal process took time. Martin pled guilty to federal charges: kidnapping, fraud, conspiracy. Grove and several county clerks were indicted. Senator Blake's office launched an internal review when the consulting firm's documents forced the issue. Blake scrubbed his public schedule and denied wrongdoing, but the inquiries continued. Karen cooperated in exchange for a reduced sentence. The community eyed her with a slow, complicated mix of scorn and relief. People wanted someone to blame, and she gave them a reason to see the whole thing layer by layer. The other twist, one that mattered to me most, was how the community reacted. Neighbors who had been quiet now came forward with stories, forged notices, mysterious fees, vans that came in the night. A pattern emerged that carved a path through dozens of homes. The local media ran week after week of coverage. Protesters gathered outside City Hall demanding reform. New rules about HOA governance and contractor vetting were drafted in a matter of months. Some officials resigned, others were voted out. The town, wounded and furious, started to stitch itself back together stronger. When the final hearing cleared my deed and returned all claims, the relief was not loud. It was a small, private thing. My daughter and I signing the papers, the clerk handing back the original document with a small smile like someone handing you back a piece you thought lost. We hugged, and for a moment the world beyond our yard didn't matter. The battle had been won, but the cost left marks. Nights I couldn't sleep. The way my neighbor looked when she passed my porch. The long list of names, now stained by greed. In the weeks that followed, I felt the country's attention shift. People liked the headlines: "Veteran takes down corrupt HOA ring," and then they went back to their lives. But the change stayed. Laws got tightened. Enforcement became real. And the story stayed alive online as a thread of community power. Small people standing up to big institutions. On the 4th of July, the town held a parade down Main Street. My daughter marched with her school, holding a small flag. I stood on the curb, watching her smile as fireworks started to bloom in the high sky. A neighbor yelled, "Dawson, come on up!" I climbed onto the platform they set aside, and for the first time since this began, I spoke in front of our town, not with bravado, but with a quiet hope. "We fought for our homes," I said, my voice steady. "Not for money, not for fame. We fought because land means more than property. It means family, it means memory, it means the right to be left alone to live your life. We did not let fear win." The crowd clapped, some people crying. I felt my daughter squeeze my hand. The last twist came not from the courts, but from people. Karen, working with a non-profit, volunteered in the community center that opened to help homeowners facing predatory practices. She cleaned parks and spoke in public forums. People were not ready to embrace her, but she showed up every day, doing the small, hard work that apologies require. I watched her one afternoon, teaching a class on how to spot fake documents. Her hands trembled still, but her voice was steady as she said, "I was wrong. I'm trying to fix it." That, more than any headline, felt like justice. Years later, strangers would tell my daughter that her dad took down a corrupt ring. She'd just shrug and say, "He just wanted our house," and she would be right. The fight was never glory. It was land, family, and the stubborn American idea that no one gets to take away what you fought for without a real fight. On our porch, with the flag in the breeze, I sometimes touch the old federal badge I keep in a drawer, not as proof, but as a reminder. We don't give up our homes, I tell my daughter. We don't give up our country. She looks up and smiles like she already knows. The war was over, the guilty were judged, and our house, my daughter's home, was ours again. The truth had been loud enough to drown them out, and for now that was enough. They thought a paper and a few hired thugs could steal our life. They forgot one thing: people who love their land will fight like hell to keep it.